great to welcome a well-known and respected figure in the industry, Angela Middleton, who's going to talk to us now. And Angela is the Chief Executive and founder of Middleton Murray. Angela.
Hello all. Thanks for inviting me here, Lindsay. It's lovely to be here. And I also am going to talk about gender parity, but maybe have a slightly different take, fortunately, to the one that Neil has. So I've not had to quite rip up all my notes. But as we know, it's International Women's Day tomorrow as well. So I just thought before I start, really good opportunity to thank one incredible woman, Lindsay McCurdy, who's actually put this conference together and does so very effectively every year, and has so many speakers and gets the real issues out on the table. So I just wanted to give a round of applause and thanks to Lindsay. So a little bit of scene setting, first of all, from my perspective with regard to gender. We have come a tremendously long way, and gender equality has transformed over the last 50 years, as we all know. Girls continue to get better grades at school. Careers advice is much more equal at school, and there's greater parity in university intake. Employers certainly are actively trying to achieve greater parity when they are recruiting onto their training schemes. And as we know, unequal pay is outlawed. There's been a huge increase in women running small businesses. In fact, 21% of SMEs are now run by women, contributing over £70 billion to the UK economy. And in 2016, 26% of FTSE 100 directors were women. That's up from 13% in 2011. So we have come a long way, but there is still a long way to go. 90% of caregivers are still female. 85% of senior execs are male. 81% of businesses are run by men. And there is still a pay gap generally, and specifically on apprenticeships, there's on average a £2,000 pay gap. That's on apprenticeships. And women apprentices, as I think we know now, are more likely to be in the relatively low-paid apprenticeships than men. If we look at 2013, 13,000 men started engineering apprenticeships compared to 400 women. So there has been progress, but the progress in the pay gap even has stalled. And if we look at the current rate of progress, it will take 50 years for it truly to close. So why is this? I mean, I think that we're doing a tremendous amount to tackle these issues. There's so much happening on the legislative side. Employers are doing their best, and us in this industry with training providers and colleges alike are really working to achieve equality and diversity across all sectors. So is there something else that's actually causing this? I think there is. I think it's down to confidence in individuals. I think it's down to limiting beliefs, and data and surveys back this up, but also some of my own experience in business as a woman does as well. I think that there is basically a slight misalignment of something that I call the 3 S's. The 3 S's being state, story, and strategy. And if you think about strategies, that's what we all work really, really hard on. When we talk to the people that come through our traineeships and onto our apprenticeships, we talk to them for preparing for employability, for example. We talk to them about strategies, how to write a CV, how to package themselves up, how to present really well. It's all about strategies. And yet, if you look at the psychology of somebody achieving a goal, 80% of the reason they achieve their goal is about their state and about the story they tell themselves, and only 20% about the strategy. So I just wanted to talk about that in a bit more detail. We think about strategies, us as business owners and professionals within this sector, we've more or less got it down. Those of us who've been in this sector for quite a few years, we know how to run businesses and organisations. We know how to be innovative. We know how to do our marketing now, our sales, so that we engage with employers. We manage finances properly. We manage our contracts with the Skills Funding Agency, etc. We know how to optimise procedures so that we have an effective and consistent service to apprentices. We have raving fans and lots of case studies, and we're trusted to do a good job. We've got our E&D policy, and there's legislation behind that's actually trying to ensure parity. And all of that's backed up by Ofsted grade 1s and 2s that lots of us have achieved. We pass audits. Our numbers of starts are going up, so that ticks that box in terms of the 3 million target. Our success rates are going up. So what about the other two? I think this is really where we can make a difference in this industry, state and strategy. Think about state for a moment. It's about an individual's readiness to do battle and get the job done. It's about their mindset, their motivation and their enthusiasm. And this really stems from some things that are much deeper than often we go into when we're working with apprentices. Their physical health and their mental health. And just building on what Neil said earlier about the importance of competition physically in sports, etc. You know, we talk to lots of the young people who come through our traineeships and really talk to them about their physical well-being, about their interests in sports, about their activity, getting them to move more, getting them to jump up and down. Can I just ask you all to stand up just for a second? Just bear with me, if you wouldn't mind. You just stand up and actually turn to the person next to you and do a high five and say, "We love apprenticeships." And then the other side and just say, "Apprenticeships rock." Okay. I won't ask you to do any more happy clappy stuff, you can sit down now. But right there's a state change. You know, and what we need to do is to ensure that the people that we work with have got the right state of mind. Because, you know, we can do all the legislative changes in the world, but if they don't actually feel ready to tackle the inevitable obstacles that are in everybody's way, not just women, but men, and every age and every, you know, ethnicity, then I think that we're only doing part of the job. So I think physical health is one thing we really need to emphasise much more on this. The same with mental health as well. We ask individuals to be mindful about what they put into their bodies in terms of fuel, food and how they move, but they also ought to be careful about what they put into their brains, you know, what they're watching on the news, all the negative press and all the negativity that surrounds the vast majority of youngsters when they're very impressionable. So I think state is absolutely critical, and we can do lots more in this industry to support individuals, young and old, in this area. And the next thing is story, the story that we tell ourselves. You know, our brain is a 2 million-year-old brain, and what it does is it looks for what's wrong. It looks for, it's instinctive, and it looks to see whether, you know, an animal is going to come and eat us and whether we need to run or fight. That's what our brain does. It looks for what's wrong. And still now, in this current environment, that's what it's looking for. So we believe the stories we tell ourselves. And if we tell ourselves that we're not good enough because we're a female, if we tell ourselves that we're not good enough because, you know, we're from the Asian community, or if we tell ourselves that we'll only achieve our dream career if we actually go to university, then our brain will just believe it. So we need to work with the people, with these apprentices, to actually get them to tell themselves a different story. And from my own experience, you know, I've experienced this whole thing from coming from a very normal background where it was almost sort of a tacit agreement that boys would do better than girls. And it was a very loving family, but there just was that agreement. So it was all a bit awkward when I started to achieve, you know, more academically than my brothers, and that sort of caused some difficulties. I know when I very first started my career at BP Oil and worked only with men, that, you know, the sort of the banter that took place, alcohol, you know, lots of sexist banter. Well, that's just how it was, and you had to sort of try to overcome that. And no one really meant any harm, but that was the story, that it was actually acceptable. And then when I moved later on to the Woolwich and worked my way up and attended my first board meeting as a board member, was asked to take the notes because I'd be good at it, apparently. So, you know, these things happen as you go along. And even most recently, I was doing a talk at a big dinner at Leeds Castle a little while ago. I was chatting away to this older chap next to me, and suddenly they announced somebody on the stage who was going to come up, and then they announced my name, and he looked at me and said, "Wow, that's you. Well done, you." You know, so even now, you know, we encounter these types of stories. So I think as individuals, and this is not just as women, there are plenty of men who probably don't want to be in the boardroom, who do not want to be the main breadwinner, you know, and yet there are these stories that we tell ourselves and that we think we need to conform in a certain way. And I think it's very important that we work with our young people and our apprentices on that level as well, to get them to create a story that they like, that is in line with their values, and that they then and let them know that they can actually control their own mindset. So I think from our perspective, don't get me wrong, we need to maintain our strategies. All these things that I've listed in order to achieve high quality is absolutely critical. But maybe I'm overconfident, but I think that most professionals I meet in this industry, you know, they are professional and they've got this down, they've got their quality improvement plans, etc., and it's all being addressed. But I think we need to just go a lot more deeply. We need to focus with our young people and our older people as well on apprenticeships, on body, mind, state. Focus on their story and prepare the workforce of tomorrow to be able to take on challenges which are going to be inevitable and conquer them no matter what they are, so that they can build the careers that they want.